right, so hi and welcome back. We are in our next portion of the episode for Aberrant for the show of Tome Travelers.
Yeah, we have taken quite a lengthy break in between these two episodes, and we give you our deepest apologies, but unfortunately sometimes life happens, and you have to take a step back from some things, and unfortunately Tome Travelers ended up being the thing we had to sacrifice for a bit of time. But
we do have other things that we can share, but we'll keep those at the end of the show, so be sure to listen to the whole thing and find out what's going on with Passion Nerdly at the end.
Hopefully this won't take too long, because I actually have created this character, so we won't be going necessarily through it entirely, but we're going to go through the character creation process, and then we'll talk more about it after the show.
Yeah. So, recently I ran a game, and I'm just going to go ahead and bring this up, and that was World of Darkness, and that was the World of Darkness version that came out after this game, Aberrant. Both are by White Wolf. Right. And, looking at the character sheet now that we are getting into character creation, you can see
there's a lot of White Wolf. I mean, it's
similarities.
It's familiar.
It's familiar, but there are similarities, but there are differences also. But we'll get further into that as we get into this. But starting off the character, you've already chosen what character that you were going to base this off of.
Yeah, we are playing in Masks. I think it's called Masks: A New Beginning by Brandon
Magpie.
Brandon Conway. It's either Brandon or Brendan. I can't remember. I apologize, Mr. Conway. But yeah, from Magpie Games, it's a teen superhero RPG. Saving Throw Show has done a run through of it. John backed it at a pretty high level when it was on Kickstarter. We have a key to Halcyon City up on our wall in our game room.
Yeah, we're proud supporters of that game system.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun playing that with our friends.
And so it's an easy character for us to say, okay, here's a superhero that we know we've got fleshed out. Because superheroes are a monster unto themselves, honestly, when you're trying to create something. To create something you feel is original, and yet at the same time, you want that originality, you want that uniqueness, but at the same time, you're dealing in a framework.
Yeah, and for me, it's a little difficult because I did not grow up idolizing superheroes. I didn't have a lot of superhero influence in my day-to-day. I remember watching Mighty Mouse and Underdog, but that was really about it. I mean, as far as superheroes now, mutants, I watched Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I watched X-Men on TV. I don't know, I didn't really consider them superheroes like Superman, Batman, stuff like that. And those things were there, but they just weren't things that I put a lot of focus onto. So this, as far as my character in Masks goes, that's who I am basing this off. Of course, in Masks, she is a teenager. She's a high schooler. In Aberrant, I kind of aged her up a little bit because it is meant for, I believe, older people.
Older characters and some definitely slightly more mature topics.
Yeah.
That's also something left to the game table. But White Wolf has always tried to push that their games are meant for mature players.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, even in our World of Darkness game, my cousin and I are pretty tame when it comes to stuff. But our World of Darkness game is very unique. It is a world that Amanda and I created that John is running a game in so we can run our characters in it. And so it's kind of different. So if you ever hear me misspeak of World of Darkness or not have a rule down, it's because we're doing things a little different.
But so moving on, we've got to come up with, obviously you've come up with a name.
Yep.
So your name for your character is?
Her birth name is Layla Linney, and her Nova name is Shadowscape. Now in Mask, she is a legacy character. They have tropes. And so, but I have no problem carrying over some of that backstory. Her father was a Silver Age. Is that?
That sounds about right, yes.
Because Golden Age is the originals, right?
Yes.
Okay. Her father is a Silver Age superhero named Shadow Orb, and her grandfather was the Golden Age superhero Dark Matter. So she is a third generation superhero in Masks. And this, Aberrant feels a little different than
Yeah.
that. Like, there's not really hereditary. I mean, I'm sure there is to some degree, but it feels more like something happened.
Yeah.
Everybody kind of, I think they call it, an eruption.
Your eruption. There's this. In fact, in Aberrant, there's this additional organ in your body that allows you to access these powers. So you're essentially a mutant. Let's just this is a mutant kind of.
Something has happened, and you
hero.
are no longer just human.
All right, but so you have your name. You went with alliteration, obviously. The superhero.
I did. I think that is important in any kind of superhero thing. It just happens that way.
Yeah. And we have next up a concept. The concept is that you don't come into existence fully formed. You have something that is your life before.
Yeah, I have as my concept based on the options given in the book. I chose affluent. Is it affluent or is it affluent? I never know.
Welcome to Texas. We can say it 10 different ways, and it's all right here.
I chose that background based on the legacy that my father and grandfather are known superheroes that are almost servants of the city. And they have the red telephone that is direct from either the police chief or the mayor, and so we have money, we have wealth. We have a manor where we train, so I chose affluent.
And that works perfectly. If you've ever played a White Wolf game, you, of course, are completely familiar with concept and nature. Just about every one of their games, short of Sword and Sorcery, uses that kind of thing throughout their systems. You'll find it in all of them.
Well, and my nature is almost the opposite. I chose nobody as the nature. While the personas and the alter egos are very well known in the city, I don't believe it's common knowledge who my parents are, who my lineage is. My character, because she didn't erupt until later in life, or until she was probably mid to late teens, she wants nothing to do with the legacy. It's not that she hates it. She just doesn't want she wants to kind of fall into the background and blend in. So she chooses to be almost overly mundane in an effort to not draw attention to herself.
Mm-hmm. And, but yeah, so concepts, nature, they often sound very similar. Your concept, of course, deals with more of your past and your profession, your personality, while your nature is basically the things that shape your gifts and how you are going to act throughout the story. And if you're not familiar with White Wolf, they often have these kind of vague titles to them, like Philosopher. Yours is a world of potentials. Maybe your nature, your concept is something like a warrior. Conflicts draw you. This is a part of how this game runs. It's a quick and dirty method of backstory if you don't want to create one, honestly. And I kind of like that. It works for me in a strange way, because a lot of tables I've been at recently, or the tables, I'm trying to move away a little bit from the no background. I would like to have some character interweaving, but this is a great way when you want to have that, but you're at a table with maybe people who are a little bit less experienced at gaming, and they don't want to have to. You want to give that to them, but you don't want them to have to worry entirely about a background.
Well, and I think that is something that we're seeing come to, at least in the last few days, which we have played 7th Sea 2nd Edition. I know you've ran 7th Sea 2nd Edition. We were watching a show the other day where they were creating characters, and there is an element, the fate element, the sortie deck, that allows a character to kind of have these background elements handed to them that they don't get to choose. And it helps shape some of the character design. We also watched character creation for, or I did, I watched some character creation for Weave Society, which is based on the cards you draw, which are, again, like tarot cards or, a deck. You don't have to call them tarot if that offends. If that freaks you out. But you choose cards, you scan them into an app, and that gives you whoever created that set, the author of the story, will also allows you, based on the gallows or whatever, different options that you can choose for your background. So your character backstory is kind of developed as you create the character. You don't have to come up with a story. I have written character backgrounds 2 or 3 times, and I'm fairly proud of them.
Yeah.
But
you should be, quite honestly. They're really good.
They, don't always get used. So
yeah. Speaking of which, go to passionately.com and you can actually see some of her backgrounds. We'll have them up in the blog here pretty soon. So, yeah, I managed to save some of those.
we're gonna put them on the blog.
Oh, they were on the blog when you were doing Nerdy Side Couple with me.
Oh, yeah.
So,
well, I mean, I still have all the text and stuff. And so those are characters that I have ported into other game systems now. They were Pathfinder characters. Sorry. I'm playing with some snaps.
But, okay, so this is, again, another place where White Wolf, this is going to sound really similar to stuff y'all have done before, and that is attributes and abilities. You're going to have the opportunity to spend points on your attributes, which on this sheet are the highlighted text.
Right.
It's in bold on the Aberrant sheet. Most of the other games that you're going to play with White Wolf, they are in their own
They're in
columns.
their own, yeah. I know in our World of Darkness character sheet, these attributes are in their own table, and then all the abilities fall in under.
Mm-hmm.
All right, sorry if you guys hear our dog snoring. Our oldest dog, Fred, is laying down next to us, and he is quite the snorer apparently today.
Yeah,
so
he's over 10 years at this point.
He turned 10 in January.
Yeah,
so
he's our sweet big boy.
Yeah.
So we let him snore. He deserves it.
Yep.
So anyway, but so you have again.
Yeah. So for my
White Wolf, physical, mental, and social, attributes.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to get, each one of those start just as before with 1 point in each.
Mm-hmm.
You are going to spend, you select which one is your primary, your secondary, and your tertiary. And each one of those will get 7 points, 5 points, and your tertiary, the last one, is 3 points.
So on the mental, say, because I'm going to go with mental being my primary. So I get to split out 7 points between perception, intelligence, and wits. Mm-hmm. Correct?
Yes.
All right. So my 7 points are, I'm going to go, and you can't go above a certain number, correct?
In this game setting, I don't remember. I thought that you could actually buy up to.
Okay, well,
let me look really quick to double check. That's one of those things that, I'm glad you said something. This system, you actually could buy up to 5.
Okay. Well, I am going to go simple, and I'm going to put 3 in perception, 3 in intelligence, and 1 in wits.
And that's your mental, right?
That's my mental.
Okay.
That's my primary. My secondary is going to be physical, and I get 5 points, correct?
Yes.
So I'm going to put 2 in stamina, 2 in dexterity, and 1 in strength. And again, this is on top of the base one that I already have.
Yeah.
And then, so that makes social my tertiary. I get 3 points, and I'm putting 1 in each. So I have 1 in appearance, 1 in manipulation, and 1 in charisma.
Yeah. And it's kind of interesting because when you move forward later on, for social with White Wolf, mm-hmm. appearance is not the quality that's there. That's not one of the attributes in future White Wolf things.
Right.
And I think it's a good idea not to do that because what is
Isn't
appearance?
It presence or something?
Yes. I mean, what is appearance?
Yeah, I mean, it lists as its sub-skills or its abilities, intimidation and style, and I don't know. Which I guess that makes sense for a superhero more than maybe it makes sense for somebody else. I guess.
I mean, for me, appearance is a very hard quality to be talking about in an RPG or in life in general because what is a good appearance in one case might not be in another. What's it called? The game's Heroes Unlimited, mm-hmm. another superhero game, but that one's by Palladium. There is a quality that makes you like one of the 98, you are more attractive than 98% of the population. And so, it's one of those things that, and that percentage is out there, and they say, and that might be a good thing or a bad thing because things that find you so attractive might want to destroy you because they're either intimidated or they hate your beauty.
Right.
And it's like, why have that as a quality?
Yeah.
Why make that thing? So I'm glad they went with presence later on.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're going to keep on moving forward. So you've done your attributes, and then you have abilities. So the abilities is skills and any of the other products that you're going to be working with as an RPG, they're going to label these as skills. These are these things that basically building a dice pool. You're taking your dice at the top number from your stats, your attributes. You're adding it to your abilities, and that is going to give you your dice pool to roll. So this is, you're going to have 23 points that you can spend.
Okay.
Now, this is the one where character creation, you can't have higher than 3
Okay.
with these points that you're spending.
Okay.
And again, this is somewhat different from a lot of other White Wolf products because they give you a total pool to spend across all the different attributes. So like I said, 23 points on abilities. Total pool, whether they're physical, mental, or social.
Okay. Well, the way that I have this broke down is I have 2 points in athletics under dexterity, 4 points in stealth, but if I can't have more than 3, I'm sure that I added that in somewhere else.
It's possible.
Because you get additional points later. So,
and there are also backgrounds that sometimes will toss another one in.
Right, because I do have more than 23 up here, but I also have 15 bonus. So I'm not sure what that was.
Okay, so you probably spent your 15 bonus for character creation afterwards to bump those up.
Okay. Yeah, that's right, and the dot counts so the third dot actually counts like 15, right?
Yeah.
So, okay. So I'm just going to go through and give you everything that I've got so you guys get an idea of my character without being too particular about the points since this kind of was done beforehand to save some time because I don't know if any of you are like me, but I'm sure some of you are. Character creation is not something that you can just whip out, in a half an hour. Not, again, if you're like me. I like characters that have some...
You want to breathe some life into them.
Yeah. I want a little bit more depth. I want a little bit more flavor. I'm trying to create, a special focus instead of just hashing out a character. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Getting into the game, just playing, letting the character development happen at the table. I took a little time because White Wolf and all for there being only one volume that we used for character creation, there was a lot of stuff to read through to really decide what I wanted. So after all was said and done, my abilities ranked out like this. 2 in athletics under dexterity. I also had 4 in stealth. She is Shadowscape. She is a mover amongst the shadows, so stealth was a high priority for me. Base on this character sheet, you can't buy any more in stamina because endurance and resistance are all at 3 base, right? All right. So then under perception, under mental, I had. I'm trying to see what I wrote there. I scribbled something, but sharp sight on awareness, which I guess is a trait, a specialization. Sharp sight. I have 3 in awareness and 3 in investigation. I tried to make Layla quiet in the background, but noticing, always observing, always watching. So under intelligence, she has a 2 in academics and 3 in computer. And under wits, she has 2 in arts. Under social, I have nothing under appearance because that is totally not what she is at all focused on. Manipulation, I went ahead and gave her 1 point in Streetwise because I think that's smart. And then under charisma, she has 1 in command, 2 in etiquette, and 2 in perform because she is a guitar player. That was one of the things where arts and perform and wits versus charisma, some of that kind of threw me off because there are things about her character that, like, I don't believe she's very charismatic.
Yeah.
But because instrumentalization, playing an instrument is under perform, which is under charisma, I had to give her points in charisma if I wanted that to be a part of her character. But the arts in the wits, I don't know, the options under wits were arts, biz, and rapport. And I don't know, some of those I felt were more charismatic than wits. So it was a little tough for me to navigate those waters.
Well, and as a note, you and I both have a background in music performance. And I am not normally a charismatic person.
Yeah, I don't consider myself charismatic at all.
I am great. I've played with several different bands, and I've always enjoyed kind of being in the background. The music I produce is about listening, and that's more myself thinking through things and playing it in certain ways in order to, honestly, to manipulate emotions, to cause people to emote.
Yeah.
And that to me is more of that. The charisma and other things, to be out front and to, showcase that social aptitude is not something I've always been good at. But I would like to say that I make good music. And we've made music for some of our podcasts and other people's. Nerds Domain has used now one of our pieces for them. And so, yeah.
Yeah. So I think
is there anything?
I don't think it makes it
about it
necessarily
being good?
Charismatic. Yeah. Personally, I don't consider myself charismatic, but I do think that I can easily form a rapport with somebody. So, me, myself, I think I could go there. But I don't know that necessarily makes me witty. I think that just makes me nervously awkward, and I don't like silence. So I'd rather just talk it out.
Yeah.
But anyhow, so that's how my the
core
attributes
goes.
and abilities shook out. So then after that is the advantages and the backgrounds and stuff like that.
Yeah. And so backgrounds, they represent, who knows you, resources you can draw on. And you should have about 7 points in that. You might have gotten more because backgrounds are character creation for White Wolf. Backgrounds are cheap.
Yeah, I got an extra one at some point.
Yeah.
I have attunement for one. Goodness. My handwriting is awful. U-fiber, that's a system specific. U-fiber, I went ahead and did one. Followers, I did 3 because I do have a squad.
Yep.
We all erupted at the same time, which, take that as you will. Mentor, another 3 because I have a mentor. With my father and my grandfather. And then under willpower, I ended up with 3. And quantum, I only ended up with 1.
Cool.
And I did not write down, which we haven't gotten to quantum pool yet, but I remember what it was that I had. So, but yeah, so after that, so I can't, the attunement is because when I shift change, because she's a shadow walker, she can blend into shadows and she can travel through shadows.
Yeah.
I didn't want her suit, or I didn't want whatever she has on her to get left behind.
Yeah,
we don't want Layla entering the shadows and coming out naked. So that is a whole other type of ability.
Or a role-playing game.
Yeah. So I had attunement for her clothes, U-fiber for her suit, so it could also do things with the shadows, and then followers for my squad and mentor because of my parents.
Yeah. So after all this, you go into finishing touches for the character as a human. You get your willpower, you start talking about quantum, initiative, movement, your pool, and then you have some bonus points. And then, this is one of the things I want to talk about, is they have a phase 2 of character creation, which is the eruption. This is where you become a nova. And I think it's, the reason I want to talk about this is because I feel this really shaped the future of White Wolf. And this, in White Wolf, their World of Darkness games, there's the core book for the new, for what is essentially the second edition of the World of Darkness. And so you have that book. And then if you want to play a werewolf, a vampire, or a mage, you have to buy a second book. So you make your base human in that first book, and then with the second book, you move on and you create additions to that character. It adds a whole nother layer to that. And this book, I feel like, it has that. I mean, it's all one book, thankfully, with Aberrant. But it has that kind of feel to it where, boom, here you go. You were a human. Now you're this other thing. Continue from here.
Right.
So you need to, you choose how you got your eruption to some extent. Yeah. What was the trigger? Was it accident, deliberate, emotional trauma, excitement, exposure, revelation, a threatening situation? So you get that as a part of the character creation to decide this is why. Were you bit by a radioactive spider?
Yeah, for the record, it was a threatening situation.
There you go.
Her and her friends all erupted when someone tried to take over the high school.
Yeah, and that makes sense. That makes perfect sense. And then you go on from there, and you have your Nova points.
Excuse me.
All right. And then you have your Nova points, which you're going to work with your mega attributes, enhancements, and quantum powers. Now, if we were doing this as a live character creation, this would be the part that would be the hardest, because you've got to pour through the tome.
Yeah, this is where I had to stop and really spend some time. So what I ended up choosing was I went ahead and bought Mega Perception.
Mm-hmm.
I also bought Mega Wits.
Yeah.
And under Mega Wits, I chose Enhanced Initiative and Synergy, which I can't remember what those are called. I think they're enhancements.
Those are our enhancements, yes.
So Enhanced Initiative and Synergy. Under Quantum Powers, I picked up Intuition and Premonition and Shroud, again for the Shadow Walking, which left me enough points to have 6 in my Quantum pool. Mm-hmm. So go ahead and flip over to the Mega to the Mega Attributes and look at Mega Perception. So
Mega Attributes
so you
are
kind
a very
of understand
interesting thing, because you with the Mega Attributes, you're looking at it gives a description of the attribute itself, and then there are several different sub kind of abilities within it. It's kind of an interesting thing. But you said, let's see, I got Mega Strength, Mega Dexterity, Mega Stamina, and then we go to our mental traits, which are Perception. Yes?
Yep, Mega Perception.
All right. And where did you go with that?
I just selected Mega Perception. I didn't choose any enhancements. I just chose Mega Perception.
Yeah.
So on it's the page behind.
Yeah. Mega Perception. It's a pretty interesting write-up. The artwork for this book that goes along with some of these is very interesting, but it says, scientists theorize that normal humans use only a fraction of their ability to observe things. Ask a normal person to describe what he just walked past, and he probably won't be able to tell you too many details about it, if any. That's not true of a Nova with Mega Perception. They take it all in. Every detail, every nuance, every little fact. They may not remember them very long, but they don't overlook things. They make excellent sentinels, guards, detectives, and trackers.
Yeah, so as I said earlier, I wanted Layla to be always observing, always taking in data. So that is where I picked up Mega Perception. Then I also chose Mega Wits. Mm-hmm. Even though I don't have a whole lot of witty things going on the upper part of my, I only had the 2 in arts. I didn't have any in Biz or Rapport, but I did choose Mega Wits.
Yeah, Mega Wits is a flip side of Mega Dexterity. Mega Dexterity reflects how quickly some Novas can move and react physically. Mega Wits is how fast some Novas can act and react mentally. As with Mega Dexterity, each dot in Mega Wits adds 1 to the initiative rating. So that's a really cool little thing right there.
Yeah, I liked it. And so then I chose as my enhancements the Enhanced Initiative. Mm-hmm. And which I believe is just literally...
Yeah, reacting in combat isn't just a matter of physical reflex, it's a matter of quick thinking.
Yeah.
Someone who's able to comprehend. So yeah, it has a whole system in here. Add 5 points to your initiative rating. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, and then I chose Synergy as well because it had boosts, I believe, for the team.
Love that word. Nova with his enhancement works and plays well with others. He has an instinctive ability to figure out what other people he is working with are going to do and what he can do to assist them or complement them with efforts. And he becomes the oil that keeps the machine working at peak efficiency.
I liked,
wonderful.
Yeah, I liked that because in our Masks game, my character happens to have influence
over all the other characters.
Yeah, and that just worked out that way.
Leader almost.
Yeah, and it's because like one of them is a big superhero fan.
Yeah,
is a fanboy, and so So knowing who my dad is, he's just like, he thinks it's so cool. And, he's
well,
he
must know what to do. They trained you for this situation, right?
So, and I think it all ended up kind of happening that way because of which I think we paused in the middle of our eruption discussion, but someone had attacked the school that we were all going to kill, to kill off super kids. Mm-hmm. And not that it's a super high school.
Nefarious evildoers.
Yeah, it might have just been because they were nefarious. I don't think they realized that we were all there. And so then all of us kids, kind of our abilities. I think some of our people, some of my squad already knew about their abilities, but I learned of mine then. I didn't think I had any. I thought it had passed me. So, but it ended up, once we had the facilities to train. One of our squad mates is an alien, and she is blue, so she doesn't go to school. She's on a pilgrimage, and so she learns from us, but she stays back at the compound. So it's just, I ended up becoming the leader. I thought synergy worked very well.
No, that's wonderful. It's a weird way within just the walls of the description to allow for a little bit of metagaming to say, what are you about to do? Okay, let's do it. Now, in White Wolf, metagaming is very bad, but I will say this. In Masks, there's this kind of an expectation of a little bit of metagaming because you're doing a cooperative storytelling in Masks.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it depends on your definition and your interpretation of metagaming, but it's fun. We do a lot of crosstalk at the table, but to that end, our group is usually together. So... Yeah. And it's not like we're necessarily having conversations that our characters would not be having.
Yeah. Well, that, and honestly, every table is going to be different in how it interacts.
Right.
Our table, I think, at this point is very much the storyteller-driven games where we all want to tell the story collectively.
Right.
Which, I love it.
Mm-hmm.
So.
All right, so for my quantum powers, if you want to flip over there, I'll show you the ones that I picked on that. I only picked 3. I don't remember what their levels are, but I'm sure it will tell you in the list.
Yeah.
I chose first Intuition, which I believe is a level 1 or a level 2. Power.
Yeah, it's level 1.
And then I chose Premonition, which I think is a level 3 power.
Actually, Premonition is only a level 2.
Is it okay?
Yeah.
But it's kind of the enhanced version of Intuition, but I like them both because they're both different. I mean, they're each their own monster, but Premonition is a little bit beefier. And then Shroud.
Yep. And Shroud is in and of itself, that is a level 2 power as well.
Okay. So yeah, I kind of saved some points there. So they were each 3 points apiece.
Yep. Shroud. Because you're playing a shadow-based character, I was kind of more interested in the Shroud portion. Yeah, the Nova creates a field of opaque quantum energy, inky blackness, blinding mist, or other such effect. Shroud is difficult for other characters to see through. So, yeah. And, strobe powers. Oh, yeah, kind of a cool little ability, and it adds its own rating. So, it acts, it creates a dice pool alongside dexterity for most of its abilities.
Right.
And it has a power rating to decide your range. So, man, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. So then again, after that I had 3 points. However that shook out, I had 3 points left, and each quantum pool point is only half a point. Yeah. So I ended up with 6 quantum pool points. Based on the things that I chose, my initiative initially was only 5, but with all my enhanced initiative things, I think I'm sitting around 10. So,
well, just with the basis of your mega,
the mega
wits with the, you also got one thing in there that I think beefed it up a little bit more. So.
I got enhanced initiative as well. So
I think you actually would have ended up with another point. So you're probably sitting at about 11.
Yeah. So,
and that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. That going from 5, your dex plus wits is your base initiative. Yeah. And so then I grabbed some other stuff.
5 would be good for a average or above average human. So we're talking, double the speed of a human, which, I think anybody wishes we could have.
Yeah.
So here you got your chance to make a character with Aberrant. What were your thoughts overall looking at it?
I mean, it wasn't too bad. I really need to work on how I judge things because I shouldn't judge the system based on the book. I really don't like the book.
Yeah, no.
From beginning to end, the book just doesn't appeal to me. It doesn't draw me in. It doesn't make me want to play this game. And I'm not going to say that it's just because it's black and white, because that's.
No.
I'm looking at an RPG book right now that is all black and white, and it doesn't bother me nearly as much.
No.
It doesn't get on my nerves. This one, for some reason, really gets on my nerves. It could also be that superheroes just aren't always my go-to thing.
You know, superheroes might not be. I don't think that until recently, superheroes have had good representation for women. That's my personal feeling. I mean, especially if you go back and you look at 90s and prior superhero wins. You know, how many of them had either sexual abuse or something else as their backstory, or they were prostitutes or something, and they got their superpowers.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of sad, the narrative that's been told before. And so it's like a lot of different fictions out there. A lot of people didn't jump on them.
Well, like here's an example of some of the art that I don't like.
Yeah.
This power in here, Domination, which is a level 2 quantum power, and this mental power allows a Nova to project his quantum consciousness into a sentient target's brainwaves. With sufficient successes, he can make his victim do anything up to and including killing himself. But the photograph, or the art that is drawn, is a pudgy guy. It's a guy that's got multiple chins, and the person that he is inflicting his will on looks to be a pretty woman.
Yes.
And that, it just gives... Not that isn't a thing that happens, or that doesn't have a place here, but I just think
Does it appeal?
And
here's where I'm at, and this is what my problem is with this game in general. Now, I'm not saying that the game is a problem, but there's some layout and artwork choices that could be improved upon, especially since they're talking about putting this out. And that is, so you're talking about superheroes, you're talking about comic books. And yet the art style and layout style of this book is very much the indie comic style. So you're already limiting your audience. You're already going from the major comic scale of everybody knows, everybody knows Marvel, everybody knows DC, everybody knows the gods that walk amongst us kind of ideas and everything else. I know, don't get me started on that one. We can rant about that in a moment. But you scale yourself down from the major comic books to your indie comic books, to that feeling of Powers, The Boys, where it is a smaller group, smaller section of the market that knows you. Now you take that, and on top of that, you're going into the RPG market. So role-playing games, the vast majority of the market is sword and sorcery, fantasy players in one degree or another. Sci-fi has, I feel like sci-fi is coming out, but I still don't feel like it has as much of the market share as, fantasy. And superheroes, even less. Mm-hmm. And you're going to take, the market of superheroes and scale it down even more. I mean, on top of that, the book, when you look at the cover of the book, nothing about this book screams, hey, play a superhero.
Yeah.
This is the problem with this book. Every time I saw it, I looked at it and I said, indie comic book.
Yep.
Somebody stuck it in this book section.
I mean, there's a guy with a cape.
Yeah. But does anything there say you can play a superhero?
No. I mean, it looks like mutants maybe, but it doesn't necessarily mean...
It looks like it's a graphic novel.
I mean, you'd just have to read the text.
If you did not open it up, you would not have known.
Yeah.
And so this is one of the problems with this game, is that I think you limit yourself with your art style, you limit yourself with who you're applying this game to. And then on top of that, there are things still left over from the 90s. Some of the artwork, you saw it in there now. The mega appearance.
Yeah, the mega appearance. The graphic for it is a woman with extremely, extremely large breasts. That is what she is enhanced. Yeah. They look unnatural, like soccer balls on way too high. They are
levitating, by the way. They look like they are hanging in the air, almost.
Yeah, they look like they're carrying her off, like hot air balloons. It's just, and that appeals to some people. But if I were to describe the art style in some of this, it's the '90s, it's the early '90s Valiant. art style.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't do anything
Valiant.
for me.
I would say Malibu Comics too. For me, I know
Valiant is the only one. I don't know a lot of indie comic groups, but I mean, it's just some of the art is fine. But and another thing, and this might irritate people, or it might be something that shouldn't bother me. I guess I've gotten used to playing games that either use both pronouns when describing the character, like when you're
or stick to one the entire time through.
Well, this one sticks to one the entire time through, but it's all men. And so again, it's directed. I feel like it's based on the artwork and the text. It's all based on. I'm not saying that it always has to be she. I know Pathfinder always goes to she. I feel like John Wick does both.
I think he alternates.
I think he alternates. But it feels like it's made for young men that want to talk about stuff that is older than their age group.
Yeah.
And like I said, just the Domination art, I don't know. It screams.
It's
just disappointing.
It screams that needs an update. It screams this book needs an update.
How old is this again?
This book
98,
here is no. This is early 2000s.
Oh,
this is.
I would be able to tell if
bust.
it didn't start with a comic book, and it actually gave me a title page. That's just a. That's a
layout.
That's a consumer layout issue that that's all me. That doesn't say anything about the actual content.
But if you were opening up the book to see what kind of book this was, and you're greeted by a comic book, you're going to say this is a comic book.
This is a comic book. Yeah, because if you only opened up the first few pages, you'd be like, oh, okay, this is a comic book. Because that's exactly how they set it. They set it up like a website, like somebody printed off a website.
Yeah. And it reminds me, now I'm a huge fan of some indie comics, but it gives me that feel of that indie comic. I think Tank Girl is far better than this, but it does remind me of a feel of a Tank Girl.
This is 1999.
Oh, 99, okay.
White Wolf Publishing, all rights reserved. Well, you have to search through the whole freaking book to find the credits.
I thought this was a 2003 book, okay.
So.
Wow, okay.
Maybe this is a 2003 printing. I'm not sure, but it just says 1999 is a copyright.
Okay.
But yeah, it's just, I don't know. I feel like it could be a lot better, but it is almost 20 years old now, so.
Yeah. So we know that Onyx Publishing, or is it Onyx Path Publishing, or who is that, now has the rights to all the old White Wolf material. I believe it is.
Is it Onyx Path?
But basically, the rights to this game are now owned. The Trinity universe is now owned by someone else, and they are updating the books. They're hiring new writers and layout artists and everything else. And I would love to see this game come back in a way that is better than what's presented. That would be a big deal to me. And so I'm hoping that that's what we see when this book hits the shelves again someday.
Mm-hmm.
So even if it only hits the shelves on Drive-Thru RPG, I would love to see this updated.
Mm-hmm. Why have you never told me about Werewolf: The Wild West?
Because you don't really.
I don't like either, but I always have only heard about the other werewolf.
Yeah, no, there's a whole series.
Vampire: The Dark Ages.
Yeah, there's a Vampires Victorian. There's a Vampires in Rome. There's all kinds of crazy stuff out there.
Ugh. Vampires, werewolves, blah.
Yeah. No.
My best friend is a werewolf fanatic. John is a werewolf fanatic.
And I'm not necessarily werewolf as in White Wolf's werewolf. I don't really care for White Wolf's werewolf, but I love the concept of the werewolf as a classic monster.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
I like werewolves in fiction and movies. I often feel movies don't do werewolves justice.
No, movies almost never do werewolves justice. Why don't they just look more wolfy?
I don't know.
Why do they always have to look like some sort of mutant? I've just never thought that.
I kind of like them in Dog Soldiers, where they looked like walking Schultes.
That would have been all right. See, I would go for like wolf, like I can't ever say that. Anthropomorphic wolves. Yeah. Like I think that would make more sense. Dragon Age, the werewolves in Dragon Age Origins were all right. I didn't like the way they talked. They needed a lozenge or to spit or something. But, but no, don't get me started on the Harry Potter werewolf. That thing was atrocious. It looked like a malnourished. It looked more like a ghoul from Lovecraft.
But we can save this for another discussion.
I know.
But hey.
Anyway, that was Aberrant. Yeah. Sorry, it got me on. Werewolves in the Wild West is something I'd like to see. I'd like to see some wolfmen in cowboy hats.
Yeah.
Might make me like them more.
But so this is actually going to be the last character creation episode of Tome Travelers. We've been kicking it around for a while, trying to think, what to do with this show. I mean, the numbers for this show, out of some of our shows for Passion Nerdly, have done really well, and we are so thankful for our fans of the show. Mm-hmm. And we just feel like, the character creation part, maybe we can talk about it as part of the show. What this looking at it, getting our general thoughts, but dedicating a whole show to it and everything else, we feel like the time for you and us could be better spent.
It could be, and I also feel as the person creating the characters that I'm creating a lot of characters that are unlikely going to see play.
Yeah.
And
that's not fair.
That's not fair to the character. It's not, I don't know. I just, why am I investing all this time in something that I'm not going to play? Mm-hmm. And so we're going to try to change some things around. I will still be creating characters to give myself an end to the system if I'm not familiar with it. But we want to kind of branch out. One of our things is that we've talked about whether it's part of Tome Travelers, which I think it still would be. We're just kind of going to revitalize our tagline a little bit. We want to be able to look at stuff that's coming out or stuff that's more recent that might still be on shelves, because everything that we have done, we very rarely have had one that's actually officially out of print. Yeah. I mean, if you take the strictest form of out of print, or the strictest definition, which is it is no longer being printed and put on bookshelves, then yes, we've probably done that on a few. But almost every game that we've discussed is findable, is downloadable.
Exactly. And honestly, don't you want to know what's out there? I mean, in the end, you as a listener, us as a player and content creator, I want to know what is out there and available to you and to us, so that we can get excited about games that are worth getting excited about. And
quite frankly, we've listened to some shows that are addressing RPGs of any era, current, past, whatever. And we just haven't found anybody really talking about RPGs in a way that we can, that's either informative without being absolutely disrespectful. I know I kind of have been hard on Aberrant, but I've tried not to be unfair to it.
Oh, yeah.
And we've listened to a few podcasts that are great in their own right, but there's very little info, and a lot of it is just being unfair because it sounds good. It fits their shtick or whatever.
Yeah.
So we would like to talk about some, because there's a lot of games that we're looking at or we're playing that we would love to share with you, but it doesn't necessarily fit the RPGs of the past tagline. So,
and so we're going to be switching that up for Tome Travelers. We're going to, we're revising the tagline. We're going to address games, we're basically going to address RPGs as they are, and we're going to find titles that we think are fun and exciting and present them to you in the format that we've done so far, minus the extreme amount of character creation.
Yeah. With that, we may be altering our release schedule. We may be, because we do have some other podcasts in the works. I don't know if we feel comfortable announcing those yet, or telling you when they'll be released, because we've had kind of a rough couple months.
It's been interesting, but I will say this: we do have one podcast. I'm just going to give the generalist thing, and that is we have a podcast where we are teaming up with Nerds Domain to do a joint podcast, and that's coming out next month. Mm-hmm. And then we are also talking with another entity outside of our circle to actually discuss with them podcasting. And if that goes well, I think we're going to have a lot of fun and maybe introduce you to something we love.
Yeah.
So, which of course is the whole thing about being Passion Nerdly.
Yeah. So we have considered possibly a Passion Nerdly podcast that is us just talking about things that we enjoy. Mm-hmm. We want to start fleshing out our Patreon a little bit more, offering some more exclusive content there to maybe encourage somebody to throw a buck or two our way.
Yeah.
But, and if you listeners have any suggestions on what you'd like to hear or like to see, please by all means get in touch with us. passionately@gmail.com is always open. We both check it. Mm-hmm. If you want to insult one of us when the other one doesn't know, I'm sorry, that's just the email we use. We're all going to know. So, but no, we've enjoyed Tome Travelers, and we've been kind of sad to not have the time to really focus on it. Dice Voyeurs is still going.
Yeah, Dice Voyeurs is going strong.
I hope you guys enjoy that. Yeah. We have a good time looking at other people's dice.
Yeah, and I really hope y'all heard our episode where we were in Kansas City and got to go to Pond and Pint. Mm-hmm. I think that was a wonderful episode, and of course, talking with them, just enjoyed the heck out of it.
So all that to say, this will be the last character creation based episode of Tome Travelers. We will be broadening our scope to include a lot more modern or current offerings that are, and possibly future ones that are coming out. I know that I've got some RPG stuff coming out this year that I am highly looking forward to from some of my favorite publishers. Mm-hmm. And our release schedule may change to monthly for the main Tome Travelers episode, but depending on what we're doing, we may have some in between episodes for you.
Absolutely. And so with that, we hope that you'll come and join us again and continue with the Tome Traveler. Come see what we've got. Come see what we found, or come see what we've dug up.
Yeah, check out our new website, passionately.com. It is still kind of a work in progress. It's primarily just links to the podcasts and blogs. A lot of blogs that John's been doing and bringing over from his older blog. He's republishing those on Passion Nerdly. But we have some cool stuff coming up, and follow us on our social medias. John is at Passion Nerdly on Instagram and Twitter. I am at Roowerks, ROOWERKS, at Instagram and at Twitter. And, we are findable and interactable, so please hit us up. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, see y'all soon.
Thank you for listening to Tome Travelers from Passion Nerdly, a proud part of the Nerds Domain. For more information about us, check out www.passionnerdly.com, and you can follow @PassionNerdly on Twitter and Instagram, as well as Facebook.com/PassionNerdly. Shirts available through tpublic.com/NerdsDomain, and please check out our Patreon at patreon.com/PassionNerdly.
This has been a production of the Southgate Media Group. For more podcasts like this one, head over to southgatemediagroup.com.